The Nintendo 64 is one of my favorite video game consoles that I enjoyed growing up as a kid. I mean, it just has so many great games to it, and it's what really I would attribute to taking off my love of gaming. Now, in today's video, I'm going to go through my entire Nintendo 64 collection. It's 92 games, and it's a mixture of ones where I have some manuals for. I used to have the boxes for them, and just a bunch of loose carts as well. So if this sounds interesting to you, let's get to it. Okay, so the first game we're going to cover today is 1080 Snowboarding. So I remember when this game came out, I had never really played a serious sports game before, especially an extreme sports game like snowboarding. So this one to me really helped to draw me into the appeal behind these sorts of games. Now, from the get-go, as soon as you load the game up, it's got that awesome intro music, that awesome montage of skating going on. Pulled me right in. So with this game, I did everything you can do with it. I remember if you beat all the competitive races, master certain times and what have you, there's the ability to unlock two secret characters. One is called Iceman, the other is called Gold Iceman. I forget exactly how to access them here. I didn't want to look it up on the internet. I think it was something like you take the American skater, you hold down on the C, the down C arrow, hit A or something like that, or hold it for 5 seconds. I can't remember, but it makes a little ding sound like done like dinner, and then you're able to use that character. So this game, again, really got me involved in the snowboarding games. Because of this, I went and bought Cool Boarders 3 on PlayStation. I was really big into SSX on PlayStation 2. And of course, it went hand in hand with all the other extreme games around that time, most notably the Tony Hawk Pro Skater skateboarding games. So if you haven't played 1080 Snowboarding, definitely a fun one to check out on the Nintendo 64. Next is a game called Aero Fighters Assault. So this one here, it's what you would expect. It's, you're flying around in a jet, you're trying to shoot at other jets, you've got machine guns, missiles. Now, admittedly, this game, with today's controllers in the Nintendo 64, it felt a little bit hard to operate. And there was one point where I did like a loop-de-loop or a barrel roll or something, and I became completely disoriented. Like I didn't know which way was, further up in the atmosphere, which was closer down to the earth. I had no idea, and people were shooting at me all along or all throughout the level, so who knows? I'm not really good at these games. I don't really find them enjoyable because there's a little bit of like motion sickness that kicks in with me. But if you like these jet fighting sort of games, Aero Fighters Assault might be up your alley. And then we have Army Men. This is Sarge's Heroes. So I remember first playing Army Men 3D, I want to say on the PlayStation 1. And I had a really good time with that, both the campaign mode and also playing the multiplayer aspect with my friends. This game here, a lot like it. I mean, it's basically a first-person shooter, or is it a third-person shooter, basically. You're running around, you're trying to defeat other army men in a war or a battle, and there's all sorts of cool stuff. Now, what I really enjoyed about this game is one of the enemies was coming at me like a flamethrower, which, WTF, like a flamethrower on plastic toys. Wow. Talk about like maximum damage. I had a lot of fun with this game. I would like to go back and play through more of the campaign to see where it goes, but for kicking around a little bit, just having some fun with it, it was a good time. Next, we have a game called Automobili Lamborghini. So, fun story about this. I actually first received this game sort of like in an Easter basket as an Easter gift when I was in middle school. And I was pissed because I wasn't that big into racing games, and this is a game I'd never heard of. So I was just, why on earth did I get this game when there were so many other great games at the time, from, your Diddy Kong Racings to the Zelda games, whatever. As time has gone on, I have come to appreciate this game a lot more and actually really enjoy it. I want to say this is one of those games where at the time as a kid, because I was so pissed off about it, I went and traded it away for some other games. But going back and getting it again as an adult, I really do enjoy it. So it's not the greatest racing game ever. It's not the most realistic. It's nothing like that. I don't want to call it a budget title, but it's kind of close to that budget title sort of genre of game. So if you take that lens back and know that no, it's not a Gran Turismo game, it's definitely not a Forza Horizon game or anything like that. It's still a decent time. Another game I had as a kid, Banjo Kazooie. I loved this game. I think I've talked about this in a previous video among some of the best games I've ever played. This is on that list. So I remember spending a summer just fully immersing myself in the world, unlocking everything you could unlock in this game. All the music notes, all the jingos, all the jiggy pieces, no stone unturned, if you will. So it was so awesome exploring all the different levels. At the time, this was an exclusive Nintendo property. It now is owned by Microsoft, but at the time, it was good to see Nintendo coming out with more heavy hitter exclusives aside from just the Marios and Zeldas of the world. So I really enjoyed this. It was a different take on platforming, but it was still a good, nod to traditional platformers that you would know and love in a 3D realm. So if you've somehow missed out on Banjo-Kazooie, please check out this game. It is available on Xbox now, so you can play it with a modern controller and slightly tweaked graphics, but still get a pretty similar experience. Another great game is Banjo-Tooie, which is the sequel to Banjo-Kazooie. Now, admittedly, I haven't played this one except for just capturing the game footage here, but I've been wanting to for a while. And I think this is one that I'm going to end up playing on Xbox, but it looks like it follows the same storyline of Banjo-Kazooie, like it doesn't miss a beat. Grunty, the evil witch, looks like she's back at it again. So definitely interested in checking this one out at some point in the near future. Next is a game called Blast Corps, which I think was a launch title for the Nintendo 64, if I'm not mistaken. And in it, you're just driving around in different commercial vehicles, like a big rig or, some sort of tow truck carrying bombs, and you have to basically carry materials from point A to point B, help blow up stuff, take certain routes while avoid, hitting detonators and stuff like that. A lot of people love this game. This is one that honestly has never really pulled me in, so I need to go back and really give it a good try. But I know this has a very hardcore, devoted following to it, so definitely one that I want to look at more. Next up is Bomberman 64. So this is a Bomberman game in 3D, and it tries to tell a little bit of a story, which is, for me personally, unusual in a Bomberman game. I'm used to it being the isometric top-down sort of game where you're going through little labyrinth or maze, dropping bombs on enemies and trying to progress that way. There is some of that too, but this takes more of a third-party platformer sort of perspective to it, which I thought was pretty interesting. I haven't gotten too far in this one, but maybe I'll pick it up at some point. Next, a game that honestly I didn't play until capturing this footage, but I was pretty surprised. Bust-A-Move 2. And the reason why I was surprised is because I have played this game or a game like it just titled something else on other consoles, whether it's like in an arcade setting or whether it was like on an Xbox digital copy or something. I forget what the heck this game is called in other platforms, but basically here what you're doing is you've got different colored balls that are on the grid or the map, if you will. You've got like a cannon where you have to shoot the different balls, and as you connect 3 colors in a row, they're going to pop or explode, and the more of them you can chain up, you can send them over to your adversary and really stop them with their progress. That's how you progress through a level. Now, this game, Bust-A-Move 99, is Bust-A-Move 99, Bust-A-Move 2. They're more or less, very similar. I think the only difference would be just some of the different narrative or characters that they introduce, some of the background stuff that they try to do going on. But in terms of gameplay, colorful balls that you have to shoot at one another and collect up and stack to make chain combos, same premise. These are really fun games. It's mindless fun, if you will. And I really enjoy it. A little bit more difficult to play with the Nintendo 64 controller. Like when I've played it on modern consoles, like with an Xbox controller, for example, it feels really easy to use. This year I was struggling a little bit to connect the chains and get my combos going, but I still had fun time with it. And then we have Castlevania. So admittedly, I haven't ever really been too big into the Castlevania games. I remember playing Castlevania 2 Simon's Quest on the NES back in the day, which I think is the game that everyone hates. That's a true Castlevania fan. But regardless, I mean, this whole Metroidvania, just running around, collecting stuff, run all the way back to where you were, I've never really dug those games. This one here, I haven't gotten too far into it past, this initial intro. It starts out, you're outside of a castle. Presumably it's Dracula's castle. All sorts of weird stuff's going on. You got like ghouls and wolves and stuff coming at you. So I would like to try this a little bit more. Maybe this is different. Maybe this is a Castlevania game that someone like me would really get into and enjoy. But if you've played Castlevania for Nintendo 64, let me know what you think about it. Next up is a game called Chopper Attack. So similar to the Aero Fighters Assault game I talked about earlier, same premise, but this time you're in a helicopter and you're flying around. You got your machine gun turrets, you've got some missiles. You're shooting at other flying enemies. You're shooting at tanks on the ground. This felt really clunky playing it on Nintendo 64. So, I don't really know if this is any good or not. I couldn't get too far in it because of the controls today. But it looks like it could be a fun time. Like the graphics and everything kind of reminds me of like a Contra game, or even Metal Gear Solid 3 when you're out in the desert, or not the desert, when you're out in the jungle and everything. So there might be some fun to be had here. We'll see. Next up is Clay Fighter 63 and a third. So I remember at this time of life, the 3D fighters were huge. I mean, you had Mortal Kombat. They just, running off the success of Mortal Kombat 1 and 2 in both the arcades and the Sega Super Nintendo home consoles. You had the Mortal Kombat trilogy that was coming out around that time with PlayStation, Nintendo 64. You had all the different spin-offs like the Sub-Zero Chronicles or whatever they called it, Mortal Kombat 4, Street Fighter, Tekken, all of that. Clay Fighter 63 and a third feels like it was, the younger brother, the younger kid of the group that was like trying to run really hard to catch up to everyone, but just wasn't fast enough, couldn't hang with them. That's this game in a nutshell. So playing through it, like I was thinking about even that show on MTV, back in the day, Clay Fighter Celebrity Deathmatch, whatever they called it. I was hoping for something like that. This was just not really fun. The mechanics weren't really there. The characters weren't really compelling. It felt like a B-side of a lot of things. If you disagree, please let me know. I'd love to, give this one another shake, but my initial impressions of this game, there are better fighters out there. Next, a game that was very popular in the PCs. I own it here on console, Command and Conquer. So admittedly, I never played this one on the PC. Completely missed the boat on it. As I went through and played it here on the console, I see why you play it on a PC. Like trying to control your units, move them, trying to attack other enemies, defend your base, whatever. It's really hard with a controller. I could see how with a mouse pointing and clicking on the keyboard, it'd be so much easier. So games like StarCraft, for example. StarCraft I've only ever played on PC, never on a console. I know they have a StarCraft Nintendo 64 game. I've avoided it like the plague for the very reason why I'm talking about here with Command and Conquer. I would much rather play on PC. So if you've played Command and Conquer on console and had better results, let me know. Maybe I'm doing something wrong, but I do have a copy of this game also on my PC. I have both a physical copy and I have it on my Steam account. So I'm going to play it over there that way. I'm going to completely skip Nintendo 64 Command and Conquer. But heard nothing but great things about this game. Next, a game that hasn't really aged too well, but has been creeping up in value. Conker's Bad Fur Day. So this one, previously Conker was just kind of like a side character in Diddy Kong Racing, had like a minor supporting role. Here Conker has his full-blown game. And you get more of a little bit of a backstory with Conker. Honestly, I can't tell you what's going on in the story. It really doesn't even matter. This game is full of like crude humor, inappropriate jokes, burps, farts, stuff like that. And, it's a platforming game. So I sunk a few hours into this. I can't remember why I didn't continue with it. Maybe it was the controls, maybe it was the graphics. I can't remember. This is another one that's also on Xbox. I'm going to play it over there when I finally commit to actually playing through it to finish the game. And now this game was my intro into arcade racing. This is Cruisin' USA. I really love this game in Cruisin' World. I remember at the time, this is when you could still find actual arcade games out and about, specifically like movie theaters. That's where I first played this game. And then when I could see that, oh man, I could play this at home on my Nintendo 64, I'm in. So granted, it's a pared down version to compared to what you're playing in the arcades, but still, mindless arcade racing where you can just plow through cars and knock everything in your path out of the way. There's a lot of fun to be had with this game. I think I like some of the other entries in the series more, like Cruisin' World, but great music, great racing action, great fun. Again, is it on par with like a Gran Turismo or anything like that? No, but it's better than Automobile Lamborghini, I'll tell you that. Cruisin' USA, fun game. And next, I talked about those B-side fighting games. Here's another one, Dark Rift. So when I played this one for this game footage, it's a game that I knew nothing about before I booted it up. And punching it into the console, seeing the different characters come up in the background stories, I was like, man, this game's really trying to do something or be more than what it is. And specifically at the very beginning, there's a whole big like Star Wars, like the opening of a Star Wars movie, like amount of stuff scroll that you had to read through just to like get a backstory on your character. I'm like, I don't care about this. Like, did people really like read and get into this stuff back in the day? So the lore of it was interesting. The gameplay didn't really do anything for me or pull me in. It's one of those games where, again, I was going for a complete Nintendo 64 collection at one point. Maybe I'll still get back into that. But I was just in a habit of buying games that I saw on the shelf that I didn't own. This is one of those transactions I made. Happy I finally got a chance to play it and recording this gameplay footage. I don't think I'll be playing much more of it. And the theme of crappy fighting games continues. This is Deadly Arts. So again, I punched this game in, or I inserted it in my console to play it. Nothing to write home about. Nothing we're going to look back on in several years and be like, oh man, did you get that Deadly Arts game on Nintendo 64? No. I thought it was pretty interesting how, this main character here that you could fight with looked kind of like the character Rook, or Ryuk, however you say his name, the Shimigami from the manga Death Note. But aside from that, and just being mildly entertained with that tie-in, which probably had nothing to do with anything, not that good of a game. So now a great game, Diddy Kong Racing. If you have not played Diddy Kong Racing, please go check this game out. I think, honestly, this game is better than Mario Kart 64. I mean, you have 3 different options. You could be in a car, a hovercraft, or an airplane. There's like 12 different characters to choose from. There's a very cool boss in Wizpig. Basically, he comes from a different planet, invades your world. I don't remember why he does, but the whole thing is you got to beat all the different races in your world, all the little sub-bosses, and then you can go invade Wizpig's world and like race him there. So I really enjoyed it. It had a lot of depth to it. There's also a really fun multiplayer aspect to it as well. It's a game where if I look back on racing games, I honestly don't remember all the different tracks in Mario Kart. I remember like 2 or 3 of them. I remember a lot of these tracks in Diddy Kong Racing. They were very memorable to me. The soundtracks were very good, especially the space missions, but also stuff like the Hot Top Volcano. I really love this game, and if you have not played Diddy Kong Racing, definitely check it out. Next up is Donkey Kong 64. So I remember at the time, this game was big because they required an expansion pack, which at the time was a new thing. It hadn't previously been something other games used. So this game here, it's a platformer, 3D platforming game. I honestly haven't spent any time with it other than what you see on the footage booting it up. I thought it was interesting that the whole opening cutscene to introduce you to the game is like 8 minutes long, and it's like all the Donkey Kong characters either playing music or singing or rapping or whatever they're doing and going around a circle like in a cipher. I thought that was pretty amusing, but also entirely way too long. Like if I'm a kid and as a kid, what I did was I always booted up a game, and before I hit start or A or whatever, I would wait and watch all the opening, intro cutscenes, all to try really like suck in the story. So man, if I were a kid itching to play this and like had to sit through 8 to 10 minutes of that stuff, I would be, ready to go. Um, Let me know what you think about Donkey Kong 64. Is it worth my time to go back and revisit, replay now? I don't know. Maybe you do. Now this game, I'm a big fan of Duke Nukem, and Duke Nukem 64 is no different. So, if we're going to talk about the critical acclaim of this game, I don't think many people talk about this one in terms of being a great game, not really highly rated. Who cares? Throw all that out the window. I love this game because I had such great memories playing with a friend. Now, specifically, we would do the co-op mode and we'd run through the missions and try to beat the game that way. I remember there's this one level where there was like a jail cell or whatever where you could like lock someone in. And my friend was like, oh, why don't you go in there and check this out? I think I saw something hidden over there. So I had him go in there and I just locked him and I just ran through the game like a jerk and did all this stuff without him. And he was pissed sitting next to me. Stuff like that I remember with this game. And, of course, like this came out around the time that I was really entering the teenage years. So he had a lot of like innuendos in this game, a lot of inappropriate jokes, which really resonated with a newly minted teenage me. So I have great memories of this one, and I do love Duke Nukem. Then there's also Duke Nukem 0 Hour, which came after Duke Nukem 64. I think this one, I didn't play a whole lot of it. I remember playing it at some friends' houses. I feel like that's the one where you had like Duke Nukem in the Wild West and like other weird like time travel stuff going on, if I'm not mistaken. I do want to go back in and experience this one a little bit more. Really, my main experience thus far with Duke Nukem 0 Hour has been the multiplayer element, just frag matches, death matches with buddies. Didn't really spend time on the campaign. So let me know if Duke Nukem 0 Hour's campaign is worth revisiting. Full disclosure, I've got all the Duke Nukem games. Behind me is this Evercade wall where, the Duke Nukem games have been reintroduced on the Evercade. So I played through the PC versions. There's also the Game Boy Advance version on there. They've got some of the PS1 ports on there. I'm basically playing through all the Duke Nukem games. So I'm going to get to it regardless. Just let me know if it's one that, maybe I should kind of elevate in that priority of my Duke Nukem playing. Next is Excitebike 64. Now, I remember Excitebike came out on the NES initially, and man, at the time, playing on NES, there wasn't anything like that game, and it was so fun going up over, like, the little hills and the jumps, and going around, and there's, like, little patches where it's either mud or gravel, and it will, like, throw your bike off or, like, slow you down. Excellent game. I had wonderful memories playing the NES version. Playing the Nintendo 64 version, I don't know, it felt like something was missing. Again, I didn't put a lot of time into it because I was just initially like thrown back. If I'm wrong about that, let me know. I'd love to be wrong. I'd love to go back and understand that some of these games are way better than I'm giving them props for. But from my perspective, I looked at this more as like a racing game. And if I'm going to invest my time in a racing game, there are so many better racing games out there, from Diddy Kong Racing to Mario Kart. Heck, even Road Rash 64, which is coming up later. There were so many other things that were occupying my time. This just didn't do it. But if I should go back and revisit it, let me know, please. Speaking of awesome racing games, this is F-Zero X. So F-Zero first came out on the Super Nintendo. It sucked a lot of people in, myself included. F-Zero X on Nintendo 64. I spent a lot of time playing this, capturing the game footage. I was just trying to get a few minutes of footage to show you all for this video. I ended up spending a whole night playing this game and just recording like an hour plus of footage of this game. So I love it. I love the colors. I love the high-paced action. I love the music. The music really meshes well with the overall experience, much like the Super Nintendo version. It'd be fun to see, people's thoughts on which F-Zero game is the best, whether it's this one, the Super Nintendo version, or the GameCube version. I personally would love to see F-Zero X come out on Switch or Switch 2. Not a remaster, like a brand new game. like the whole franchise rebooted for the modern consoles. I think it'd be awesome. Nintendo, if you're listening, F-Zero X. Let's give it a try. And now a game, Forsaken 64. This one was pretty interesting. So, as a kid, I remember, I think my buddy down the street had this game. I'd go over and play it with him. It was interesting in that, you're like racing through tunnels and stuff. I feel like the color schematics on the screen, it made it hard to kind of see what was going on. I never really was too drawn into this game. It didn't really suck in my attention like other games did. I don't know if it was like the steep learning curve of the game, if it was just I wasn't feeling it. I don't know. I would like to go back and revisit it, but for now, I've put in limited time with Forsaken. Again, let me know if there's more to that game, if I'm missing out on something there. And next, the cute white glove Glover. So this one, I believe, was also ported on the PlayStation. It has since been re-released on the Evercade. I've got it up here too. I'll do an Evercade video at some point, believe that. But Glover, you're an adorable little white glove. You can roll on a ball. You can bounce the ball. You can toss the ball. There's like magical abilities and stuff going on in the game. I had a lot of fun playing the little bit of this that I did. This is a game that I'm definitely looking forward to going back and actually playing through to completion. Only put in a few hours with it to date, but it's a fun game. Next up, we have Goemon's Great Adventure. Now, I haven't spent a lot of time with this one. It looks like it's a 3D platforming game. Specifically, the characters kind of remind me of some Dragon Ball Z characters like Goku and Krillin. Now, granted, Goemon's not nearly as cool as Goku, but the little sidekick dude he's got definitely reminds me of Krillin. So, it seems like a game where you're just running around, completing little missions and quests, trying to gather stuff. I have no idea where this game goes. Let me know in the comments if it's worth playing. Here's a game that honestly needs no introduction. GoldenEye 007. Now, this game I spent so much time with as a kid. I mean, the multiplayer action alone was super fun, and the whole debate about, being odd job and being able to shoot people and being hard to hit and all that jazz. But for me personally, I loved playing through all the missions, trying to complete all the special tasks on the 00 agent, and then unlocking the 007 mode, which I did. It allows you to go in and customize different things, customize like the firing power of your enemies, the amount of damage they take. Then also, too, there's all the different cheat codes, which, again, I unlocked all of them. So at the time, I had like the Prima strategy guide, which told you how to do it. I remember, a mission like the Archives, trying to go through that in 00 mission mode, beating it in 1 minute and 20 seconds or something like that. I spent days running through trying to get it. I remember every single time I'd come in at like 1 minute 22, 1 minute 21. I'd be just like right on it. And then when I finally came in under and actually unlocked that, which I think was either invisibility or invincibility. I can't remember. Both were really hard to get. I felt such a feeling of accomplishment having done it. So I love the game for what it was. I loved it even more when I was able to put cheats in and just go through in like God mode and just completely run through it. So fun game. I replayed it recently on the Xbox and had as much fun over there playing it as well. Here's a game, Jeopardy, based off of the popular TV show. I really like this game. I really like all the different Jeopardy, Wheel of Fortune type games that are out there. So this has, clearly Alex Trebek because he was still alive back then. Rest in peace. But what I like about this game is, you can buzz in pretty quickly. The computer seems to be a little bit more risk averse. Like they don't really want to take chances. So they'll buzz in after like a few seconds, whereas you can just buzz in quickly and get it. Then you've got like 30 seconds to formulate an answer. So you just go through and pick the letters you want, and it will usually auto-populate some you might be thinking of. So there's a way to kind of hack it if you don't really know the answer, but you buzzed in. You can like fish around to try to figure it out. Mixed results doing that. It's not always a guaranteed success, but it can help you, especially if you need to like jog your memory, you're playing against friends or family members, and need a little bit of an edge. Next the game, Jeremy McGrath's Supercross 2000. So kind of like your Excite Bike game, just dirt bike racing. I think this one also has like some tricks and stunts you can do as well. I really haven't spent that much time with it. Don't know a whole lot about it. Curious to know if it's any good or worth playing. And then another game, Jet Force Gemini, that I sunk so much time into. Now, going back and playing it today, especially on Nintendo 64, it suffers from tank controls. I have no idea how I managed to play through that as a kid and actually enjoy it, but it is god awful today trying to play it. Maybe it's better on an Xbox controller because I know this is part of like the Rare Replay. I do want to go back over there and play it. But I remember at the time, there was not any game like this out there. And this is when Rare really had a hot hand. I mean, they were just pumping out high quality games. And, this was so cool in that you had the 3 different characters you could play as and switch through. Actually, maybe it was 2. Maybe it was the male and the female. I can't remember if you could actually play as the dog or if the dog was just like a sidekick. Can't remember, but you go through and like you can unlock different things with different characters and all kind of like pieces together for the main progression of getting through a level or a world or whatever. I remember with this game, I got all the way to the end of the final boss. And for whatever reason, I never finished it. I think maybe it was just too hard with the tank controllers. It's one of those things where I was just spending a ton of time during my summer break just focusing on that boss fight. And for whatever reason, I could never finish it. So at one point, I just said, F it, and gave up. But I loved the game. I loved the experience of it. I had a lot of fun playing it. And everything about it, from the single player to the multiplayer. Again, I just think that the control schematics really are what pull the experience down with this game, but still a whole lot of fun. And then we have Kirby 64, the Crystal Shards. So I haven't spent a lot of time with this game. I do love Kirby games, so this is one I'm definitely going to have on my radar to go and play. But, you've got Kirby just jumping around doing his platforming thing. Not fully 3D, because again, that didn't happen until Kirby and the Forgotten Land on the Switch, which I don't know why it took so long to do. But Kirby had a pretty strong showing here, and I'm looking forward to really going through and playing this game as well. And we have Kobe Bryant and NBA Courtside. Rest in peace, Kobe. So, fun fact, this game on Nintendo 64, I picked up and started playing. It was like 1997. This game made me a Lakers fan. And fortunately, the timing was right because the Lakers went on that run with, it was either like 98 or 99, 2000, 2001, like the three-peat of championships. At the time, so many people are like, oh, you're just riding the bandwagon. You just like the popular team that's winning. Actually, I like the team because I played this game. And I loved playing all the different Laker characters. Even like the supporting cast members. Like I remember there was the point guard, Glenn Rice, who was good at like shooting 3-pointers. I loved playing as him. And, at the time, I was like the biggest Glenn Rice fan on the planet. And I only wanted like a Glenn Rice jersey. And people were like, why don't you want a Kobe jersey? Well, I like Glenn Rice because of this game. He's won a lot of games for me. So just fun background on that. Had a lot of fun playing this. And this is the game that really got me into becoming a basketball fan. Next up, we have a game that I really didn't spend time playing on Nintendo 64 because I was playing it mainly on PlayStation 2. We have Madden 2001. And, it's what you'd expect from a football game of that time. It's not really a game that I'm going back and replaying today because the graphics don't really hold up. Albeit it might be kind of interesting to go back and look at the history of who's on what teams, who the starting rosters are, kind of like a throwback to nostalgia. But I've got Madden 2001. Madden 2002, and Madden Football 64. And I'm just going to quickly gloss over all these because, again, you played one, you basically played all 3 of them. But, Madden Football really kind of set its mark. It was around this time when you had competition from other games like NFL 2K Series, NFL Quarterback Club, NFL Blitz. Nowadays, when I think of football, Madden is the football game. Like I couldn't name another competitor to Madden. But at the time, all these companies were trying to kind of assert their flag in the ground of what the franchise football product would be for video games. And Madden won. And then around the same time, you also had competition for baseball. And this is Major League Baseball featuring Ken Griffey Jr. I remember this game in that it was really cool how when the ball would get pitched to you, it showed the little square around you and you had to kind of like zoom in and focus on where it would be and get the right swing in. I wasn't that good at this game, and honestly, I'm not really a baseball fan. I'm a casual fan that goes and just enjoys being outside drinking beer, not really paying attention to the game. But I remember going to a friend's house and they would play this game. They were actually into baseball. Just watching them go through things like the home run derby or, just knocking the ball out of the park in a game and racking up the score. It was fun to see. I think this was probably one of the better baseball games of the Nintendo 64 era. And, I had fun with it playing it casually. A game I absolutely loved, Mario Golf. This game, oh my gosh, this is the first Mario Golf game I ever played. I think before this it was on the Game Boy Advance or Game Boy Color or somewhere like that. And they, continue to progress the game throughout various generations of Nintendo consoles. But wow, I had so much fun playing this. And again, I'm not a golf fan either. I don't get excited about these golf tournaments or, watch it on TV. Could care less. But you sit me down with this game, I had such a good time. Like the power moves, the different ways you could like spin the ball, the different characters, how you could like talk smack to one another by pressing like one of the C buttons or something. I love everything about this. I love the levels, the level design, how you might have like Peach's Castle or like other stuff in the background. Great time, great memories of this game. And then we also have Mario Kart 64. Again, a game that probably was one of the highest selling games on Nintendo 64. I think probably that one, Super Mario 64, and Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time are probably the top three selling video games on N64. Again, I haven't looked this up. I'm just going off of memory here. But Mario 64, I remember for the longest time, this is back when you'd have an actual display unit in a store where like a Walmart or something, there'd be a TV up high and kids would be just like craning their neck looking up and playing the game. And there'd be a line of people waiting to play Mario Kart. And that's really what I remember this game. I actually never owned it as a kid. My buddy down the street, 2 doors down, owned it. So I just played it with him all the time. It wasn't until I became an adult that I bought this game for myself. I do like it. I like all the little cheap moves in there, like in Wario's stadium, how you can jump over the wall and easily win that way. Or, right as someone's going off a ramp, you hit like the lightning bolt to make them shrink and fall. Like little stuff like that. I had great memories with it. I don't know if it's the best Mario Kart game. I think that's debatable. But for what it was on N64, I had a good time with it. And now the next 3 games I'm kind of going to lump together because honestly, you're not going to see much of a difference. But it's Mario Party, the first one, which I remember was notorious for breaking people's controllers because they'd be rolling around the stick a certain way and just destroying it. I forget what that mini game was, but I remember that was a common issue. And then there was, Mario Party 2 and Mario Party 3. So Mario Party 1, 2, and 3 in terms of, gameplay mechanics, it's all the same, right? You're playing on a board game, you're progressing through, you're trying to get different stars, different coins, or coins first, then they use the coins to buy stars. Sometimes there's a random star hidden on a map, which you can just walk over and grab. And then at the end of the game, you get certain stars for doing things, exceptionally, like, oh, spend the most money, give you a star, or oh, won the most mini games, get a star. I do love these games. I would love to own all the Mario parties across all generations of Nintendo systems. I don't have them all yet. There's just a few I'm missing, but I really do like the Mario Party series. And then we have Mario Tennis, which again, I'm not into tennis at all, but I do like playing the Mario Tennis game. And, it's really fun, especially if you play multiplayer. I'm not that good at this. When I played against the computer, I got my butt kicked time and time again, which you'll see here in the footage. But if you're looking for a fun tennis game, Mario Tennis is, in my opinion, the definitive way to play tennis. Because I've got like Virtua Tennis on Dreamcast. Those are more realistic, but also kind of boring. Like, didn't really hold my interest. Mario Tennis does a better job of bridging that gap for someone like me who's not really all that into tennis. And then this is a game that I rented at the local video store over a weekend. Later bought as an adult, but it's Mission Impossible. So I remember with this one, I I remember just getting like hung up at one point in a mission, not being able to progress further. It has elements to it where it feels like either a GoldenEye or a Perfect Dark sort of game, but it's not as good as those games. It suffers from different things like, lack of clarity on what your mission objective is. I mean, even though the mission objectives are spelled out on a list, it might be something like, I'm making this up, it might be something like pick up the walkie-talkie from Alpha Bravo Zeta. Well, where the heck is that? You have no idea where. So you're just like aimlessly running around looking for a walkie-talkie, and meanwhile getting shot at and blowing your cover and getting disavowed. So I haven't spent a whole lot of time on that, mainly because of the frustration of like trying to get through it. But if you played Mission Impossible for N64, let me know what you think. Mortal Kombat 4. So from my memory, this was one of the first Mortal Kombat games, if not the first, that was actually in 3D. And what I mean by that is you could actually use the right or the left triggers to kind of change the angle of the map and your movement. And you can actually pick up items and throw them at people. And the whole storyline, basically the old elder god Shinnok, who was banished to the Netherrealm by Raiden thousands of years ago. He's escaped and he's setting off a new war, and Raiden's trying to recruit mortals to defeat Shinnok. So I remember this game. It's got a pretty awesome opening monologue that Raiden gives. So basically it's like dark at night, pitch black, it's thunderstorming, Raiden standing there in the rain, just like talking about the events that led up to this game. So is this the best Mortal Kombat game? I don't think so, but I had a good time playing it, and I loved, again, spending my summers with it when I was on break from school as a high schooler. Next, we have NFL Blitz. So this is a game I haven't really put a lot of time into. Again, there was so much competition for football games back during that time period. Punched this in to get the game footage. I was kind of expecting more violence, like hit people, hard hits, like knock helmets off. I didn't see any of that with this game, so maybe that's a different NFL Blitz game. Again, if I'm missing something, or if you really like NFL Blitz, please let me know in the comments. And there's also NFL Quarterback Club, which this is Brett Favre on the cover. I remember Brett Favre for the longest time was regarded as, this great quarterback and et cetera, et cetera. And then, had a little bit of a scandal there that came out, and another scandal several years later, and now no one ever really talks about him. So same thing with this game. Nobody talks about NFL Quarterback Club either, because Madden won the football wars. And another fighting game, Nightmare Creatures. So again, nothing really special about this game. Just, someone's attempt to compete with the big boys, Tekken, Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, and not really anything that's going to stand the test of time here and, draw you in or have you talking about it years from now. There's also the game Paper Mario, which, wow, what they did here in terms of taking Mario and making it an RPG sort of game, outstanding. Everything about this, just how you can recruit different, Goombas or Koopas or whatever to join you in battle and give you special abilities. And I love this game. I love these games. I think it's so creative what they did in terms of taking a familiar intellectual property, Mario, and completely spinning it around and making a brand new, fresh game approach. Definitely check out Paper Mario if you haven't played it before. I don't think you'll be disappointed with any of them, honestly. And then we also have Perfect Dark. So this is sort of like a spiritual successor to GoldenEye. It's another rare game. First-person shooter, too, if I'm not mistaken. So honestly, with this one, this came out a little bit later in the Nintendo 64's lifespan. You already had PlayStation 2 coming out. Dreamcast was hot. This is one of those games where, for me personally, it was kind of like an afterthought. I enjoyed playing it with friends at their house, doing the mission levels. We're doing the multiplayer levels. But in terms of like drawing me into the story and me like playing through this at the time, there were so many other games that were capturing my interest. So this is a game that I've never actually beaten or played through 100%. Maybe I'll get to it, especially because I've got Perfect Dark on Xbox 360. I'd love to play that, so I'm probably going to go through this first before doing that. But Let me know what you think about Perfect Dark for N64. Pilot Wings 64. This is one of those games where at the time, I didn't play Pilot Wings on the Super Nintendo. I didn't even know it was a thing at the time when this came out. I actually didn't own a Super Nintendo as a kid. I just played it at my friend's house. But this game here, this is one that I picked up later as an adult. I went into it thinking, oh, it's just going to be some generic run-of-the-mill type of game. But no, actually, like, there's a lot of cool stuff to it. Like, there's the hang gliders, there's like a gyro glider, and something else. I forget what, but you got to do all these different things, like weave through different checkpoints in the air. Reminded me a lot of playing Grand Theft Auto 5 and doing the parachute missions where you have to, like, traverse through the different rings in the air and then land perfectly in the middle of a circle on the ground. So I think this is probably, looking back on it as a retrospective, probably ahead of its time for the Nintendo 64. And it's really cool the things they did with this game, and it really helped pave the way for some of the other things in modern games that we all love. Next, Pokemon Puzzle League. So again, this is just a fun puzzle platformer in the Pokemon universe. I had a lot of fun playing with this. Again, I didn't play it as a kid. I was more interested in the actual Pokemon battling or even the Pokemon trading cards. This is one that I kind of glossed over at the time. But playing it to capture this game footage, I had a good time with it. And I could see how this would be fun to play with a group of friends, or, just got like some pizza and soda and just crack at it. Here's a game that I absolutely loved, Pokemon Snap. This game, again, I didn't own it as a kid because what I did was I went to the local video game store, or the local movie store, I'm sorry, rented it for a weekend and basically just knocked it off in a Friday night and a Saturday and then returned it on Sunday. But I remember just how cool it was, like being on that little pod, rolling through the levels, taking pictures of all the Pokemon, and seeing the cool things they do, like Pikachu getting on a surfboard, or the Butterfree flying together, and the little things like, oh, there's a Charmeleon right here. Let me throw something at him, knock him into the hot lava, and oh snap, we have a Charizard. I loved everything about this game. I loved how there were like hidden levels that you could like unlock that led to other things. And at the time, playing as a kid, I did find Mew and get the pictures of Mewtwo. I'm sorry, Mew as well, not Mewtwo. Getting pictures of Mew, which was awesome and really great memories of this game. I also have Pokemon Snap on the Switch. I think this one is better, but I would love to see more Pokemon Snap sort of games out there. These are just so much fun. And then we have Pokemon Stadium. So I remember at the time when this was announced, I was super excited because, we never had seen 3D Pokemon before. I remember being initially disappointed, however, because I wanted a truly open world 3D Pokemon game where you're walking around, you could see Pokemon, you can capture them. We didn't really get that until the Switch, Some of those games like Arceus. Was it Arceus the first one that did that? I can't remember. I hope it wasn't that long into the lifespan, but that's all I wanted to do was just, traverse the map, see wild Pokemon, capture them, battle trainers, and this was just stadium battling with mini games. And then you've got the follow-up, Pokemon Stadium 2, which honestly was a lot more the same. Like, you've got the same battling, some mini games, a little bit different, albeit. I remember what was cool about these games, though, is that there was an actual Game Boy pack you could put into your controller, your N64 controller, load in your Pokemon game, and you actually play your Game Boy game through the Nintendo 64, which probably like, oh, what's the big deal about that? You could do that with the Super Game Boy on Super Nintendo. Yeah, but again, I didn't own a Super Nintendo. Missed out on all of that. So for me, being able to play Pokemon Game Boy on the big screen TV was a big deal to me at the time. It was awesome. So I have fond memories playing these games. At the time, they weren't really what I was wanting. I'm thinking about some Batman quote, like, it was the hero we deserved, but not the hero we needed, or some crap like that. It's kind of how I feel about these games, So they're still fun to play regardless, and I like the challenge of just like picking a random squad of 6 that I didn't train and trying to beat my opponents that way. And then we have Quake 2, which, again, a lot of people played Quake initially on PC. Again, I could see the appeal with the mouse and the keyboard. I had a lot of fun here on the console version of this. And, playing death matches with friends, fragging them with the grenades and the rail guns and what have you. A lot of great fun. Now, I can't remember if I actually played through the story mode, the campaign mode on this. It doesn't really matter, honestly, because my memories of the game are still tied to the multiplayer aspect, which at the time, great fun, great multiplayer game. Next, we have Quest 64. Now, I don't really know a whole lot about this game. I picked it up because I remember a friend of mine at the time when this was out, he either owned it or rented it, played through it a good amount. He liked it. He also liked the Mystical Ninja Star and Goemon sort of series. So I picked it up for that reason. I haven't spent a lot of time with it. I have no idea where this game goes or if it's any good. If you've played Quest 64, please let me know in the comments. And we have Rampage World Tour. So I remember playing Rampage at first in the arcades. It was so much fun just climbing up on a building as either a monster or a gorilla or whatever you are, and punching it, eating people, knocking it down. This game was cool for having the ability to play this at home, but I don't really look at it as fondly as the memories I have of playing this in the arcades for whatever reason. Maybe it's the controls. Maybe I'm used to arcade controls and button mashing versus an N64 controller. Maybe it's something else. I don't know. But it's still fun to be a monster and destroy stuff. I just think the arcade port might be better. And here's the game I've double dipped on. I own it on Sega Dreamcast. I own it on Nintendo 64. Ready to Rumble Boxing. So this is a game where I had a lot of fun playing it. It was so cool to me, just, the wonkiness they put in, like the special moves, the showboating. At the time, there were some more serious boxing games, like I think the Boxer, the Contender. I think Contender was what it was on PlayStation. And also they had like Joe Louis. I don't know if that was a game, Joe Louis Boxing or something, or like Mike Tyson Boxing, but you have more serious takes on it. This felt more arcadey, and the character's a little bit more dynamic. So that's the reason I picked it up. I believe it was also produced by Sega, which makes sense with the arcade elements to it. Is it Sega? It's Acclaim. My bad. It's Acclaim, not Sega. But it's still a lot of fun. Now, this is one of my favorite games. Road Rash 64. I have such great memories playing this with friends late at night at like a sleepover in the summers. Whacking people with like poles, chains, pipes, and hear the sounds they make. They fall off. Like I loved it. And the music was awesome too. The whole thing about you could be winning a race and a car comes out of nowhere and hits you head on and you go flying. I love this game. And there have been other Road Rash or Road Rage sort of esque games made sense. There's one on more modern consoles. It sucks. But it makes me want to go back and revisit the other Road Rash games in this family to see which ones are actually good and worth playing. Because so far, this is my favorite one. This is the definitive way to play Road Rash for me. I don't care if the graphics are outdated and antiquated. This is still my way to play it. And then a game that I hadn't played until capturing this footage. This is Robotron 64. So it's interesting because you're like, it's isometric. You've got this little grid you're on, and there's enemies coming at you, and you have to find ways to defeat the enemies or collect different things to get points. And the whole time it's like a computer system or whatever that's like taunting you, like, you won't survive. You won't get past this level alive. Blah, blah, blah. Like, I'm curious how far it goes. Like I went through a few levels playing this. Is it up to like level 99, level 100? Is it like an infinite loop? Is there a end game to it? I don't know. But Robotron 64, interesting game. Then we have San Francisco Rush. This is a fun sort of arcade racing game. Doesn't really take itself too seriously, but I had fun playing it. I'd like to go back and play it a little bit more. It's kind of comparable, in my opinion, to like an automobile Lamborghini meshed with like a Cruisin' USA. So I'm curious to see what else this game has to it. Then we have Shadow Man 64. So I've played a little bit of this. I remember that the whole thing is there's like, you're a dude that's got like some tie-in to like a demon or a devil, and there's like a shaman or voodoo witch doctor that, you're trying to help out too. And I don't really know fully what's going on with the story, but you've got like special abilities and you're in like some world of the dead sort of thing, something like that. And you're traversing through trying to do something. I have no idea. I need to go back and play this a little bit more. I think I would like it if I gave it more time. And then South Park 64. This is a game that I owned as a kid, beat as a kid. It's very quirky, right? So I mean, you can take your pick of which of the four boys you want to play through as. I think maybe you can also later play as like Chef or Bar Brady. I can't remember fully if you can or not. But this whole thing where you're going through and you got snowballs and you're throwing snowballs like wild turkeys, or you can like pee on the snowballs and throw them. And I remember at the end of the game, there's like some like mech robot that you're trying to like take out, and it's kind of annoying at the time, just like throwing like snowballs or like dart gun pellets at it or something like that. Something stupid. It took a long time to actually beat, but at the time, again, South Park was really getting hot. It came out in I think 99 or something, or 97. I don't remember. Late 90s, South Park came out. This game came out shortly thereafter. So it was a hot TV show. It wasn't a great game, but it was a great tie-in to the TV show, and I liked it for that. And then there's South Park Rally, which admittedly is a game that I didn't play as a kid. I only acquired as an adult, but you're taking the South Park characters, you're racing around. It plays a lot like the Simpson Road Rage game. I think if I remember correctly too, you can also like shoot missiles or projectiles at enemies, kind of like what you do in Mario Kart or Diddy Kong Racing. Again, if you're comparing it to those racing games, those battle racing games, it can't come anywhere close to those. But I had fun with it for what it is. And then we have Space Station Silicon Valley. So this game, as far as I know, it's plagued by horrible reviews. People just don't really seem to get it, or it's like wonky, buggy, glitchy. This is a game where at the time, again, I had rented this from a local video store. I was compelled with just different missions. Like, oh, walk the pig through this hole and have him step on a button and open up the gate and progress through and yada, yada, yada. Playing through it again to capture this footage, didn't really do a whole lot for me. So I don't know if this is going to be one of those ones that I go back and revisit or not. But at the time, as a kid, I was digging it. I thought it was different, and I appreciate that about the game. And then we have Star Wars Rogue Squadron. So this is a game where when it came out on N64, I missed it. I didn't really play a Rogue Squadron game until Rogue Squadron 2 on Nintendo GameCube. But as I went back and played this one as part of capturing this game footage, it was interesting, right? It was very cool to see like things like the Battle of Hoth, or the battle on the X-Wings on top of the Death Star and stuff like that. It was cool what they did here and how they pushed the envelope of what a Star Wars game could be. And I appreciate that about this. I feel like this really helped lay the foundation and the groundwork for future Star Wars games. And then we also have Star Wars Shadows of the Empire. So this was interesting in that, everyone knows about Darth Vader and Darth Sidious, but who's like the number 3 person? Who's after them? And there was a guy named Caesar, or Xizor, Xizor is how you spell the name. Don't know how you pronounce it. It's up for debate. But that person is controlling a criminal organization called the Black Sun or the Black Hand. I forget what exactly it's called. But in this game, that's the main antagonist, kind of pulling some of the strings and like working for the Empire, but also working for their own personal wealth and gain. And you're just like a lonely bounty hunter. I forget the dude's name. It doesn't really matter. But you're going through like 10 different levels and trying to kind of infiltrate this dude's palace and like bring him down and like stop all this nefarious activity. So I enjoyed playing this game because of the time. Very different from other stuff. Playing it today, there are definitely some weird control mechanics going on. I struggled to get through like a level, whereas as a kid, I'd be like chucking through this stuff like speed running. But again, I have great memories of playing it as a kid. A game that pretty much everyone loves that I talk to, Star Fox 64. It's interesting, like playing this now, it still holds up, honestly. Like, it's fun to go through the different levels and shoot things. Now, it's funny how I like this game, but I don't like the other games like the Aero Fighter Assault or Chopper Attack. but I think it's mainly because there's characters I care about, there's a story I care about, there's great music, great colors. There's a lot going for this game. Um, so yeah, I don't think I need to talk more about it. It's Star Fox 64. If you've somehow missed it, go check it out. Another game that was also on my greatest games I've ever played list, Super Mario 64. Now, this is the reason why I bought a Nintendo 64. And I remember seeing Mario in 3D for the first time and running around the outside of Peach's castle, the castle grounds, and then going inside the castle and jumping into a painting. It still today, it's like awesome and exciting for me to do that. Now, I 100% completed this game. Everything you could do, I did it. And it's something that I want to go back and do again as an adult. I just haven't found the time to do it. But nothing but great things to say about this game, nothing but great memories with it. This is my favorite Super Mario game they ever made. And then we also have Super Smash Brothers. Now, I know a lot of people think this is probably the best one, or at least it's their favorite. I actually prefer the one on the GameCube more. That's the one I spent a lot of time with. This one here, when it comes to Smash, I remember the commercials on TV more than anything else. How it was like that song, So Happy Together. You show like Yoshi and like Donkey Kong walking down the street, and then one of them just like pulls something out and like whacks the other. And it was kind of fun what they did there with that marketing campaign. This was interesting too because there were characters they introduced in the game, like Ness from Earthbound, which a lot of us weren't really familiar with at the time. And have since, they've caused us to go back and revisit certain intellectual properties or franchises we may have missed. Fire Emblem was another one where, they introduced different characters that I'd never heard of. So I really like that about this game, and I love all the different facets of gameplay they put in, from like throwing Pokeballs to, the changing levels that you have too. So fun game. I do like the Super Smash Brothers series. So this is a game that I need to go back and play. I've never beaten it. Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask. The reason I've never beaten it is because honestly I get anxiety with the whole thing about the giant moon with the face up there, and you got like 3 days to beat the game. I've never really felt compelled to play it. I remember the first time I seriously tried to play it, I just felt like stressed out and wasn't really enjoying it. I do own this game also on the 3DS, so that's probably how I'm going to play it in handheld mode. But I know people love this game. I know some people consider it on par with Ocarina of Time. I probably will be one that will never ever think that because I love Ocarina of Time so much. And speaking of, here's my copy of Ocarina of Time. This game is perfect. This is on my top games listing. It's probably the greatest game I've ever played, honestly. Now you could say, oh, what about Link to the Past? What about this and that? Yeah, Link to the Past is great. I'm not taking anything away from that. This one, to me, this is what really sucked me in and pulled me into the Zelda universe. And again, for me, the memories I have playing it, the nostalgia attached to it, just nothing like it. And then the whole thing about traveling in time 7 years, traveling back 7 years, even the silly side missions like getting the Bigoron sword, which I did. Do it all again. I love this game. Nothing but great things to say about Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. Here's a game I bought on a whim knowing nothing about. This is the Powder Puff Girls Chemical Extraction. So I know nothing about the Powder Puff Girls. Went into this, again, I was just trying to complete my N64 collection, and I was pleasantly surprised. This is a fighting game. Wasn't expecting that at all. And it takes place in that Powder Puff Girls franchise universe, which I know nothing about. But I did like that, hey, pop this in and just go at it with an enemy, which, I can't really say if this is like a great fighting game, but I was pleasantly surprised at how it turned out. Here's a game that's kind of been creeping up in value, which I don't really know why, but it's Tigger's Honey Hunt. So again, it's a platforming game set in the Winnie the Pooh universe. You're Tigger trying to collect pots of honey, which I believe Pooh Bear once, he ate all his honey. So that's pretty much the gist of it. You go through and you try to avoid swarms of bees and other little obstacles and collect honey. And also you got Eeyore in there, who he's as mopey as ever. That's the right word to say about him. Just, oh, I guess I gotta get up and go get some honey. So, whatever. Tony Hawk Pro Skater. So I played this game initially on PlayStation. That's for me the definitive way to play it, just because I like the controllers over there a little bit more. I can't imagine playing this on N64 with that controller. I had a friend back in the day that played it over there, was really good at it over there. Not for me, you know. So this one I have mainly just, you know, for the collection. I play this one on PlayStation, more specifically since they've done the remake remaster in recent years. I've got a PlayStation 4 copy where I'll play it over there. Then another baseball game. It says Triple Play 2000. I don't really know anything about this game. I popped it in for the game footage, you know, just trying to hit some home runs, trying to strike people out. It's baseball. Then we have Turok Dinosaur Hunter. So I remember getting this at the time, and what really stands out to me is like your visibility in the game isn't very far. Like you could see in front of you, but not super far. So you'd be like running through into the fog and the mist, thinking everything's all good, and then either a dinosaur or some dude with like a bow is coming at you and, you know, just pops you. And then there was like weird level mechanics where it's like you gotta do some crazy like jump on pillars where like there's like an infinite fall and that's it, you're done. So it's a little weird, quirky stuff like that. I never beat this game. I know there was like some little like warp stuff going on where it's like either time travel or warp to different parts of the map. I don't know. I know they've made several other games. More specifically, there's Turok 2 Seeds of Evil. There's also a third one after this, which I don't have. But Turok 2, it feels like more of the same, but they tightened up some of the control elements. Like, you know, the visibility's improved. You got a better handle over your weaponry and how you move, but still, never really got too far into these games. I need to go check them out. Then there's Vigilante 8. So playing this to capture the game footage, the first thing I thought is, man, this is trying to be like Twisted Metal, and man, it's really failing. Like, I would never play this when there's Twisted Metal out there. So first off, like, I'm not at all interested in these cars, these characters, their stories. It's not really engaging. Twisted Metal, I felt a connection to each of the characters I would play as and kind of like their predicament, why they were in the competition, what they were playing for. And I played through every single character to try to understand how their ending went once they met Calypso. I loved that. There was nothing really there to like keep me engaged and interested, so maybe that's why Vigilante 8 is no longer around today. They have another golf game. This is Waialae Country Club. This tries to be more of a realistic golf simulator, very much the opposite of like Mario Golf 64, which is realistic in certain aspects, but more so like fun and cartoony. This one takes itself really seriously. I haven't spent a lot of time with it because, again, I'm not really that big into golf, but it's there. Then we have War Gods, which is another budget fighting game, which, again, I knew nothing about. I think going into this, just looking at the cover, I don't know what I was expecting. Like, not a fighting game. And when I turned it on and played it, I was like, oh, okay, that's what this is doing. And, again, comparing it to other fighting games out there, you're better off spending your time somewhere else. And we have Wave Race 64. This game is still fun today. I mean, it's fun getting on your jet ski, plopping up over the waves, going over jumps and ramps, racing around. Lots of fun here. I mean, I know people love this game. It's still great today. Next up, Wayne Gretzky's 3D Hockey 1998. So I didn't own this one as a kid. I've only picked it up recently as a collector. It's a hockey game. It's what you'd expect. Just traversing the ice, trying to shoot the hockey puck into the net, trying not to get in a fight, which I wasn't able to do in this game. I think I need to try a little bit harder to really like rough somebody up to get a penalty and initiate a fight. But if you could fight in this game, let me know. I'd love to hear about it. Next, we have WCW Backstage Assault. So this came out kind of on the tail end of WCW's heyday. They really started to go downhill 1999, 2000, 2001. I feel like this game is right in that time period. It shows, right? I went into this thinking, oh man, this might be fun. Backstage fighting. This game sucks. I mean, there's not a whole lot keeping me interested. The mechanics are horrible. It feels stiff trying to play it. WCW had seen better days. This is really like, it's like buying a car with 250,000 miles on it and being excited about it. No, not happening. A much better game, though, WCW versus NWO Revenge. This is awesome. So this is like when WCW was in its prime. You've got the NWO, clearly, which was at the time they introduced the Wolfpack. So you got the Wolfpack, the black and white NWO, and then you got like all the WCW characters, including like Bill Goldberg and stuff. This was fun because, again, the backstage fighting, the whole element of like grabbing foreign objects and hitting people with it. I can't remember if it had been done before. Definitely not in a WCW game. So this was really groundbreaking for that. Now, before that game, there was WCW versus NWO World Tour, which I was super excited for. Like, this was like one of the first times I'd ever played an actual wrestling game in 3D that wasn't in the arcades or on a PC. And I loved it. I loved how you had like NWO and they'd have Hollywood Hogan, again, rest in peace, coming out with his belt spray painted with NWO on it and using it like a guitar, which was still awesome. Looking at today, it hasn't aged the best. Like, the characters are all blocky. Some of the backgrounds, some of the ring attire and everything, it seems like generic. But again, this was awesome in terms of what it could do for helping to springboard and elevate wrestling games. Now, another game that it was previously on my intro video, Wet Tricks. This game, I love this game. So it's a puzzle game where basically you have different land elements that fall. You've got mountains that you can build up, or there are tiles that will help lower the earth, and you've got water drops that fall, fire, bombs, etc. And you have to basically pack them all on as they fall in like a Tetris style, and make sure you're collecting the water without it spilling off of the map, either spilling out from a corner, so you got to make mountains to keep it in, or make sure there's no holes from like a bomb detonation that the water will seep out of. So you're constantly trying to like manage how you terraform this little grid, and you're always trying to think about ways to be on top of it. Like, oh, there's a fireball coming. Let me throw the fireball at the biggest body of water out there so it evaporates it all, and I can keep going. Or, oh, I've got too many mountains built up. Here comes an earthquake. It's really going to mess up my stuff and create holes and fissures in the ground. So I think it's a great game. I love this game. They made a sequel called Aqua Aqua on PlayStation 2, which we'll get into at another point. But I love Wet Tricks. If you haven't played it, definitely check it out. And then we have Wheel of Fortune. So I love playing this. Like, for me, this is such a fun time. You got Pat Sajak. Well, was Pat Sajak in there? I can't remember. You definitely have Vanna White. Vanna White is a big part of this game. And specifically, I love how, like, when you hit the lose a turn wheel, it's like, sorry, you've lost your turn. And like, some of the ways that people like enunciate different letters. It's funny. This guy's like, I'll buy an O. And it's like, you could just said, I'll buy an O, dude. I love this game, though. I have a lot of fun playing it. It holds up really well today. And, it's probably my favorite Wheel of Fortune game that's out there. And then this was my personal favorite wrestling game on the Nintendo 64. This is WWF WrestleMania 2000. So I remember when this came out, oh man, I spent so much time playing it. I remember like trying to beat through like the heavyweight campaign to get Shawn Michaels unlocked and then seeing what else you could do. And then I did this thing where I had on my memory card, I had a whole file, like a whole different area devoted to just a custom roster I made. So I had all these different characters with their names, move sets, I had factions, I had our own championship belt and everything too. It was awesome. Like, I had so much fun building out this whole ecosystem of wrestling, and then having pay-per-view events where it's like my champions taking on the WWF champions and all that jazz. So much fun. I still play this game today a little bit here and there, and if you haven't experienced it, definitely check it out. And then there's also WWF No Mercy. So I think this one came out after WrestleMania 2000, if I'm not mistaken. I'll have to double check on that for you. I didn't spend a whole lot of time with it, honestly, because I kind of found my thing with WrestleMania 2000. But it's in that same vein of the WrestleMania 2000 and the WCW vs. NWO Revenge game. So if you like those, you should have a good time with WWF No Mercy as well. And then last but not least, we have Yoshi's Story. So this is a very fun, like 2.5D game. It's very colorful, very fun. You got all these different colored Yoshis running around trying to solve this like storybook world of problems. I love this game. I know not everyone does. It's kind of knocked for being too easy, but I don't care. It's fun. It's gorgeous to look at. It's cute. So with that, those are my 92 Nintendo 64 games. Are there any that you didn't see that I should consider buying? Again, like I mentioned, I was once trying to get all N64 games that were released in North America. Maybe I revisit that at some point in time. For now, it's kind of on hold. But if there's anything I absolutely need to pick up, please be sure to let me know in the comments. As always, I want to thank you so much for watching. Thanks for subscribing, and we'll catch you next time.